Right, my name is Katie Bulkley. I'm an associate professor at Montclair State University. I am a professor of educational leadership, and although most of my research is on educational policy issues, and specifically I look at market-based reforms in education. So I look at things like charter schools, contract schools, organizations, private organizations that are preparing educators, and try to understand the role that those organizations are playing in how we provide public education. Well, I think it's very important because we're really seeing some significant shifts in public education right now and the role of private actors in determining what is taught, how it is provided, what is in the public interest, because it's public education funded by the public. One of the things we're seeing in urban education is what some people call a portfolio management model. And in a portfolio management model, what you have is, instead of a district providing a fairly uniform set of schools, districts are providing lots of different kinds of schools. And the portfolio analogy is to a stock portfolio. So the idea is that if you have a stock portfolio, so if some investments are doing well, then you want to buy more of those. If some investments are doing poorly, you may get rid of those. And in theory, in a portfolio district, when some schools are performing well, you try to replicate those. So you have a charter management organization that's got a fantastic school. You say, can you open another school in another area that has high need? And you have a different school that is performing poorly, and you close that school. I think that there are a lot of people on ideological grounds that would absolutely give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to this. And one of the things that we've really seen is that this push, there isn't a lot of evidence that it's not good, but there's also really not a lot of evidence that it is. I would say very little, and yet there's a tremendous push, particularly at the national policy level, by individuals and groups, and this includes, for example, both President Bush and President Obama, who really see this as an act of faith, that this is a good idea, that charter schools, for example, are a good idea. And I think a lot of that comes from individuals who are taken, for example, to some exceptional charter schools. And there are some exceptional charter schools in this country. They go to those schools, they see how well served the students in those schools are, and they say charter schools are a great idea. And what they don't always see is that you could pick some public schools that are some traditional public schools that are also doing a tremendous job of serving students from high needs community. And if you took policymakers to those schools, they might say, wow, public schools are great. You have to look at the big picture and not look at individual schools. As well, when you see the shift towards all of the discussion being for parents and parental engagement being about individual school, and when the rationale, if a parent isn't happy with the school, is you take your child out and you take that child to another school, what you end up seeing is parents who are not invested in the system of public education. They're invested in individual schools, and they can always leave. And that really changes potentially the broader civic engagement around supporting public schools as a whole. And public schools, yes, they serve kids and parents, but public schools are publicly funded because, in theory, they serve the public. I want my research to encourage people to ask questions that they might not be asking, particularly people at the level of making policy. I want them to step back and say, you know, this sounds like a really good idea, but have we really thought through these ideas well? I want them to really take a broader view of what it means to provide good quality education and to really serve kids well.